if I have an equation like y equals 3x take 2, then number one, how can I graph that? And number two, in my head, how can I visualize what this really means? What does this equation look like? What does this equation look like? I'm going to show you a strategy that will help you to draw it on a Cartesian plane on graph paper, but I want to show you what we're going to end up with. Here, the equation is y equals 3x take 2. And you can see that the y-intercept is -2, and the slope or gradient is 3, because for every 1 unit across, I go up 3. 1 unit across, up 3. 1 unit across, I go up 3. And that's the strategy that we're going to use to draw this line. So then we don't even need technology. We can do it in our heads or on paper. So if the slope or gradient m is a whole number, and here it is, the gradient is 3, step number 1, plot the y-intercept with the dot. The y-intercept is the constant term, the term that's by itself. You would have seen that in our last video. So the y-intercept is -2, which is right about here. That is where it crosses the y-axis. It's not enough information to figure out which line it is. Does it go up? Does it go down? How steep it is? But we can go to step number 2 now. From here, we move right 1 unit and up m units. M is 3, so we go up 1, 2, 3 and put a dot there. And then we do that again. Right 1, up, 1, 2, 3. And we can go backwards as well. From here, I can go to the left 1 unit and then down 1, 2, 3. You'll notice they're all on a straight line. I mean, if they're not, obviously something's gone wrong. But number 4, once you've done a few points, I would probably do about 3 or 4, you can just draw a line through them. And that is how you can graph an equation. We'll do the same for this one. It's not entirely obvious what the gradient is, what the slope is, but remember, if there is no coefficient, you can imagine that the coefficient is 1. Or -1 if there was a minus sign there. So in other words, the gradient, the slope, m, is 1. And the y-intercept is the constant term, the term that doesn't have an x in it, +2. So let's plot the y-intercept with the dot. The y-intercept is right here on the y-axis because it is 2, +2, so we go up. Then we move right 1 unit and up 1 unit because m is 1. Right 1, up 1, right 1, up 1, right 1, up 1. And we can do the same in the other direction. Left 1, down, left 1, down 1, left 1, down 1, and so on. And eventually you'll have enough points that you feel like you can really confidently draw a line that goes straight through the middle of every point. Not so bad, is it? Sometimes the gradient m will be a fraction. Here we do have a fraction. The gradient is the coefficient of x. So the gradient is this 2 over 3. The y-intercept, well, you could imagine that there's a +0 here, right? It wouldn't change it if I had the +0. That would be the same line because it's the same equation. +0 won't change what this right-hand side is. So the y-intercept is 0. So I'm going to put a dot right here. There you go. I'm going to tidy up some of this ink that's here. Oh, not quite that much though. The y-intercept is 0, isn't it? Because, I mean, one way to think of it is there's no constant term. So the y-intercept is nothing, it's 0. Anyway, the gradient is 2 over 3. And you might remember from the formula for a gradient that the numerator, the top number, is the y step, and the denominator, the bottom number, is the x step. So now that I've got this dot, which is here, step number 1, done. We've put the y-intercept with a dot. We can move x step to the right and y step up or down. X step is 3, so I go 1, 2, 3. Y step is 2, so I go 1, 2, and put a dot there. X step is 3, Y step is 2. And then I can do the same again, right 3, up 2. I can go the same backwards, left 3, down 2, left 3, down 2. And then, once you've got enough points, probably at least 3 I would say, you can draw a line going through all of them. How did I know that this line goes up rather than down? Going all the way back, how did I know that I had to go 2 units for the Y step up rather than 2 units down? Well, it's all in here. If the gradient is positive, then it goes up. And this gradient is positive. If it was negative, in other words, if there was a minus sign there, then you'd go down. You can see for this equation here, the coefficient of x, in other words, the number before x, is negative. And the same is true here. Well, we can do it the same as we did with these questions, where we write down the gradient, or the slope, m, and we write down the y-intercept, which is c. So, what does that look like? For this equation, the gradient is negative 3 over 2. It's the coefficient of x, number before x. You might notice that to make it easier to draw, instead of putting the negative sign out the front of the fraction, I've put it on the numerator at the top. And the reason I've done that is because then I can see that the top is the y step, and the bottom, the denominator, is the x step. The y-intercept here, though, is 0. I don't have a +7 or a -8 at the end. There is no constant term here. There is only one term. There's no +3. So the y-intercept is 0. So in other words, I'll put a dot here at the y-intercept, and then I need to go down 3 because the y step is -3. Down 3, 1, 2, 3, and then to the right 2, 1, 2, and I'll put a dot there. I go to the right 2 units because that's my x step. I can do that again, down 3, 1, 2, 3 for the y step, and across 2, 1, 2 for the x step. And then I can do the same backwards, left 2, up 3, left 2, up 3. I've got quite a lot of points now, so it is very easy for me to grab my ruler and draw a straight line. We'll try this one now. Looks like they're trying to trick us with this question because the gradient m is here. Remember that m is the coefficient of the x term. The x term is -1/3 times x, so I will write my gradient m as -1 divided by 3. The y-intercept is the other term. It's the constant term or the term that doesn't have an x in it. And in this case, the y-intercept is 5. Cool! Now we can put a dot at our y-intercept. Our y-intercept is 5, so we'll put a dot up here at 5 on the y-axis. And then the gradient tells us that to get the next point, or a next point, we can go down 1, because the y step says to go down 1, and across 1, 2, 3. You can do that again, and then you can go backwards, up 1, left 3, and now draw a straight line through it. Cool. You can see that these equations, they had a negative gradient, and they look like they're going down. This is not a coincidence. Yes. Anyway, I'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.